Most humans who could ever exist never will.
I think I've heard you say it. There's been more humans that have not come into existence than do exist.
By far. And so the fact that you exist at all is against stupefying odds of who gets born and who does not. Any moment you spend squandering those moments you are alive does disrespect to all those who will never even be born.
I believe that each and every one of us has the power within ourselves to create the life that we really want. And I want to help give you the tools to make that happen. I'm Danica Patrick, and I'm pretty intense. Welcome to the Pretty Intense podcast. Today's guest is someone that is about 1 million times more intelligent than me, and I'm not gonna lie, was a little intimidating. Neil deGrasse Tyson, astrophysicist. I'm not even sure what that means, but look, he is amazing. And his depth of knowledge is not only about the stars and space and where did we come from and, atoms and nucleuses and subatomic particles and a whole bunch of other words I can't think of because they're too big for me. But we talked about religion. And, that was something that really surprised me because, look, he's a scientist, and science and religion don't really go together. But he knows a lot about it. And we talked about that. We talked about why he knows a lot about it. We talked about another interesting topic that was fascinating, and that's just the trajectory of being 1% more intelligent. So chimpanzees are 1% less intelligent than humans. So what's 1% more? And what's 1% more of that? And then, of course, I asked the ultimate question, do you believe in aliens? So I hope you have an amazing time listening to this and learn, because I sure did. Well, I became a huge fan with Cosmos.
Oh, excellent. Well, thank you.
Like a few years ago,
okay,
I put that on. I was like, well, that looks interesting. And I've always been blown away by the universe.
If you're not, something's wrong.
I mean, I used to remember I used to sit there as a kid and I used to look up and I was like, it goes on forever.
Yeah.
That just gives me a headache at the pure thought of it. It still gives me a headache to think that idea of like, it just keeps going and there's no end. But there has to be an end. If there is an end, what's the end? I mean,
well, so
holy
here's
moly.
The thing. Our senses, our 5 traditional senses, were forged sort of in the plains of Africa, where there is no need to think about, know, or understand infinity. We have no capacity for that. It's our mathematics that shows us that it's real. It's our observations of the universe that show the infinitude of it all, and you just got to deal with it.
We all want answers, Neil. Yeah. We want answers.
We want answers, but you can't be a scientist. This is the interesting paradox. Scientists want answers too, but we are completely content, steeped in ignorance, because it's the ignorance that attracts us, not the answers.
To figure it out.
To figure it out.
The journey.
It's the journey to that frontier. I tweeted recently, just because it came upon me.
You're very funny on Twitter.
Oh, no, thank you.
Yeah, I love it.
That as the area of our knowledge grows, so too does the perimeter of our ignorance. And so, right? So what the scientists...
you're saying the bigger the center gets, the bigger the outside gets.
The outside, the perimeter...
You know what? It's like age. It makes me feel like age. Like as I get older, I know more, but I feel dumber.
So that's very important. Because you know more of what you don't know. That's what it is. And here's the problem. Here's a prevailing problem in society. It's knowing enough to think you're right, but not enough to know that you're wrong.
Say that again. I have to do this with you a lot. It's deep. It's insightful.
Okay. See what I'm saying? Okay.
Yeah.
You learn a little bit about something, and you say, I got this.
Yeah.
I got this. Well, maybe you don't, but you don't know enough to know that you don't.
Right.
You have to learn more to realize you actually didn't know. So the great challenge for us all, to repeat the phrase, is knowing enough to think you're right, but not knowing enough to know that you're wrong. And that gets a lot of people in trouble because they rise up thinking they got the answers. And so as a scientist, there are answers we have. We know a lot about how the world works, but our job is to hack our way, through the brush and bramble to the frontier, that boundary between what is known and unknown in the universe. And when you stand there and look out into the abyss, you can't fear that. It has to attract you.
Right.
And so we celebrate not knowing. I have a whole video series.
What do you mean, celebrate? We don't know.
I celebrate, I'm
As in,
overstating
like,
that. It's like, hey, where's the next place where we don't know anything?
Okay, got
it's
it.
over there. Oh my gosh. Or someone makes an observation or discovery that we don't understand. We don't understand it. Let's not have a party, but let's have a conference and let's bring all our best ideas to the table and we'll talk about it and get excited about it. Yeah, that is it. So if you have to have answers, I think that's in way that religion kind of does that. Religion gives you answers to all manner of things. What happens after you die? What happens, your spirit, you're this. And people read it and they got the answer and it gives them certain comfort, I think. Here's how one of these conversations has played out before. A religious person might ask me, so how'd the universe get here? Well, we got the Big Bang, and that describes everything like from that first moment. And then they'll say, well, what was around before the Big Bang? And I'll say, I don't know. We got top people working on it. Well, there had to be something. Is there a reply? Thank you. Yes. Yes. We got singularity people working on that. They're called string theorists. So you were right on the button there. But they'll say, there had to be something. I said, I don't know. Maybe there was nothing. I don't know. We're working on it. There had to be something. That's God. Right? So they got the answer.
Yeah.
That's
we seek an answer. We want an answer.
Yeah, they got the answer. So they say God, and then they go home and they can sleep well at night. Whereas a scientist on the frontier hardly ever gets a good night's sleep because we're distracted by the unknown.
You've said that the thing that scares you most is not knowing the right question to ask.
Oh, you remember that? Yeah,
I've watched that. I just watched you say that.
Oh, yeah.
Is that still accurate?
It's not that, I don't want to say it scares me, but it intrigues me.
So it feels to me like this edge of the frontier that you're talking about is scary because you don't know what to ask next, but it's exciting. And so if something excites you,
like
and
jumping out of an airplane
scares
with
you,
a parachute.
Right, you should dive in. It's like how I felt about, like, for me last year, I hosted the ESPYs and I was scared shitless.
Wow.
Like, I was like, I'm not funny. I'm not I don't sing. I don't dance. It's horrible. You don't want to see it. I can't do this. And I was like, but I really want to. But so I was scared, but I was excited. And I had to finally fight off the scared enough to say yes. Because I feel like if something scares you and excites you, somewhat the same, you should go with it. You should dive in.
I think there's deep wisdom there. And often you respect the thing you fear the most. And you'll delicately navigate that which you fear the most. So you might be giving that the most attention, the most care, the most concern. So, yeah, so for me, people ask that point about the question I don't yet know to ask. Is a follow-on to the question, what is the question you want to see most answered? And yeah, we don't know what dark matter is and dark energy and how you go from organic molecules to self-replicating life. That happens sometime in the early Earth. There are plenty I got a list of questions, but that's not what keeps me awake at night. It's the question I don't yet know to ask because we don't yet stand in the vista that allows me to see that question in the first place. And it's discoveries that continue, it's the continual parade of discoveries that don't simply move forward, but they ascend to give you higher and higher ground, to see farther into the universe and recognize things that you didn't even know to ask. I lay awake at night. And so, one of my regrets, the day I die, I'll say to myself, I wonder what questions we don't even know to ask yet. And I'm going to die before I find out.
Have you answered some?
In my life.
Do you feel like you've kind of chipped away?
I did my little, no, so I had a prediction a few decades ago. That
about Pluto?
No, don't get me started. Hold me back. Don't get me started. I
came and watched you in Indianapolis at one of your speaking engagements.
Oh,
one of your tours. One of your tours, yeah.
Okay, you didn't shout out. Okay.
Yeah, it was news clippings from what was the title of your tour called?
Oh, it might have been Astrophysicist Reads the Newspaper.
That's it.
Excellent. In Indianapolis.
Yep, my sister and I went and watched you.
Excellent. Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. So what was I saying?
What have you learned? Like, what do you feel like?
So,
are there some questions that you're like?
Some decades ago, in a research paper, I made a prediction that there are 10 times as many galaxies in the universe as our catalogs had then recorded. And it was a little bit controversial, not deeply controversial, but just, no, that we don't think so. This is what a telescope show. Decades later, we found 10 times as many galaxies.
How many galaxies do we think there are in the universe?
Bazillions.
So what's a bazillion? What's bazillions times 10?
10 bazillions. Bajillion. So the numbers fluctuate.
Right.
But anywhere between 100 billion and a half a trillion galaxies of all different sizes are in the universe. And you might say, well, how come you don't know it more precisely? Not that you ask that, but you might be thinking it. Between 100 billion and 500 billion, which is a half a trillion, that sounds like you don't really know the answer. However, here's something that hardly anyone appreciates about astrophysics. The range of things in size, temperature, pressure is so huge that if you guess something and you're off by a factor of 2, you're doing good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you could have been off by a factor of 1,000 in either direction. Someone said, okay, I'm taller than you, all right? Someone said, well, he's a lot taller. She's not compared to this building out there, not compared to a paramecium. So to the building and the paramecium, we're the same size as far as they're concerned, because they're so far in that range from that size difference. So in the universe, there's such a big range in everything. We're content if we get something within a factor of 2 and we move on.
You know what size thing you just made me think of that I think is like blows my mind is that, please clarify all this, but I'm generally going off of that if you took and condensed all of the atoms down to actual matter.
Yes.
Like all the people on Earth, it's the size of an apple or something like that.
Yeah. So
it kind of blows my mind.
Okay, let me complete the mind-blowing dimension of this. Okay, there's a guy named Ernst Rutherford. He was a New Zealand physicist, and he wondered how much stuff is in an atom. There's a nucleus, there's an electron. So he took gold and hammered it very thin. Gold has this unique property that you can hammer it so thin, it's almost just a few atoms thick across so that's why there's gold foil on in ancient times. Because
it can stay together?
It not only holds together, but you can
form it.
You can form it, and you don't have to use very much of it.
Okay.
And you can cover things, and the whole thing is very shiny gold. And you can use real gold, okay? And so that you can make it so thin, it's not that expensive.
Okay.
So that's why gold is good for this. So he made what's called gold foil.
Where gold plated came from.
Exactly. So he made a gold foil and just sort of dangled it there. And then he fired particles into this gold foil. And he wanted to see how many of them would get stopped or ricocheted off or pass through. He expected most to be just ricocheted off. This is you can't see through the gold foil.
Right.
It is solid as far as you're concerned.
Right.
And 99.99% of all particles went through as though nothing was there.
God, I love science.
Okay, wait, I'm not even done yet. And he he freaked out. It's like, what's going on here? Maybe did the particle go in and then get stopped and then another one come out? Maybe it's just a transfer thing? No, matter was mostly empty. And he concluded that the space between the nucleus of an atom and the electrons is this vast chasm of nothingness. And it is rumored that the next morning, when he woke up, he alone knew how empty matter was. And he was afraid to step onto the floor.
Sure, to be up in a high rise. I'm standing on air.
Lest he fall through the atoms down to the basement.
Because science, once you know, you
Once
know.
you know, you know.
Can't unknow.
You can't unknow. You can't unknow. So now, if you want to compress everything, if you want to compress, all the people in the world, compress us down and fill in all those gaps.
Yep.
Yeah, I'd have to do the calculation, but an apple, maybe a plum. Yeah.
It's just.
We'd all just fit into that little volume. All the human race would fit into that volume.
So what the hell are we? What are we?
Well, so I think you're overvaluing the matter part. Yeah, matter matters. But the space you occupy includes space. Nothing wrong with that.
So we're just stardust.
We've always been stardust. And I think the fact that we have this empty space, it's what allows atoms to do their thing. If everything were collapsed into the dense matter of a nucleus, you wouldn't have atoms. It's atoms that make molecules, and it's molecules that make life. So we should be glad that atoms. So here's what happens. I have one atom here, a nucleus and the electrons flitting about. I have another atom and electrons. And the electrons intersect and bind the two atoms together, and you get a molecule. This is how you get H2O.
Is it because of like it being energy cooped up in an atom? Like things are moving.
So there's energy everywhere. Everywhere. That's why. Not to make another kind of leap here in this conversation, but we're going everywhere.
We'll leap everywhere.
I think it's legit.
I got a lot of leaps.
You got a leap to do. So you can calculate how much chemical energy is in your body. You calculate that. And that energy came from the fact that you ate food your whole life. Food has energy. It also tastes good, but it has energy. And you absorb that energy so that you can build when you're growing, you can build your body from childhood to adulthood. In addition, you use the energy just to live, to maintain your body temperature. Mm-hmm. Right now, the air is like 73 degrees in this room, okay? Yeah. Your body temperature, if you're human, is 98.5 degrees. Yeah. You are sustaining a 26 degree temperature difference between your body and this air.
Because of the energy inside of me, because of the food I eat.
You are burning energy in this instant, because the moment you stop burning energy, it's the moment you die.
Actually, this reminds me of a story about my dog. A long time ago, my dog couldn't maintain his body temperature anymore. And that was a sign that we knew.
Wow. Well, so that means your physiology is breaking down and you can't maintain your body's normal functions. And that's a very important function for a warm-blooded creature, to maintain that body temperature. But I can tell you this, if you died, then all that metabolism stops. The metabolism is the converting the chemical energy into kinetic energy, because you move, and into thermal energy to keep your body warm. So now watch. What happens that instant? Your body begins to cool. Cools down to what temperature? Well, it's on its way towards air temperature. That's why if you go in a funeral parlor, if there's an open casket and you're one of these people who actually touches the dead body, what's the first thing everybody says about it?
Cold.
It's cold.
Yeah.
It's actually not cold. It's the same temperature as the table, as the chair, as the floor. It's the same temperature. It's just that you're not accustomed to touching skin at table temperature. Because skin is it's usually a degree or so, a little cooler than your inner temperature. But high 90s. So the energy of your body is there, and it's working, and it's maintaining your body temperature against this. And so all I'm saying is when you die, So this is why I have told people, when I die, I don't want to be cremated.
Oh.
Because you know what happens when you're cremated? You break apart the molecules of your body and release the energy. That's what burning is.
Yeah.
That's what that is. There's energy in these molecules. You burn it, you break it apart, it releases heat. So now your body is ash with no source of heat left in it. And it heated the atmosphere, and the atmosphere radiated to space. Nothing wrong with that. So your body's energy has now escaped to space.
So,
now, wait a minute. If you bury me, however, that same molecular energy, it breaks apart by action of microbes. They dine upon my body. I have an energy source available to, it's how you can eat a steak and have the steak give you energy. That's the flesh of a dead animal.
You want to still give after you're dead.
Thank you.
That's so kind of you. That's so kind of you.
I have spent my life dining upon flora and fauna that have given their lives for my sustenance. The least I could do on death is to return the favor to a next generation of flora and fauna.
So morbidly kind.
So that they can thrive in their own lives the way I have in mine.
So it leads to this question: where do we go when we die?
Well, so I can answer that question as a scientist.
Well, I guess what are we is the first question, right? We have to answer what are we.
Well, so let's get
and then
there.
we have to answer where do we go when we die.
Very fertile topic. But before I get there, I just want to say, scientifically, I know I can, like I said, your body has a energy that you've accumulated your whole life, built all these molecules. You go in the dirt, all that energy is recovered, and it goes back to all the other life forms. As far as science is concerned, you're done. You're done. So now you're asking, but how about me? My spirit energy, my soul, my everything that I am.
Yeah.
Well, we could turn to neuroscience. Okay, there are parts of your brain that are you. There are parts of your brain that if I tickle it or if I damage it, we don't do this. People come in from head injuries. This is the full set of data we have on well, not the full set now because we have probes and things, but historically, how do you know what part of the brain controls what? It's from head injuries that people had. You got hit over here, you got hit back here, you got hit over here. There's a language center, there's a facial recognition center, there's the part of you that is your understanding of self. If those parts of your brain gets damaged, you lose your language, you lose your facial recognition, you lose memory, either short-term or long-term. We know these parts of your brain. So to say I am me and that's some special spiritual entity, as far as I can tell, it's electrochemical synapses firing in your brain.
Got it. So it's
giving you this belief that you are something other than just the chemistry and biophysics of brain matter.
What is making it fire? Like what is asking it to do something? What makes me think to ask you a question
this is consciousness, and this is a huge frontier. Now here's something I'm going to tell you no one else is going to tell you. You ready?
For sure.
If everybody's writing books on a subject, it means we know nothing about it. The more literature there is,
makes sense.
The less we know about it. That's why people keep writing about it. Go to the books, if there's still bookstores. Go to the bookstore. Look at the shelf on the human mind.
Oh, it's
There's shelf after shelf after shelf. Now look at the shelf on physics. There's the gravity book, and that's it. It's like, it's that.
It's because it is what it is.
It is what it is. We're there. We're on to the next thing. We got this. So the fact that everyone and their cousin is writing a book on consciousness is evidence of what we do not yet know. I'm just saying.
So are you saying that this is the exciting little frontier spot where we're at?
Yes. Consciousness.
What do you think about consciousness?
I think about it all the time. And
I'm with you.
Here's how I think about it. It's, why do I wake up every morning as me and not you or someone else?
If we're just consciousness, you're saying?
If I don't know. I'm just saying, why is it that every day I wake up, I'm me? What makes that?
Right.
And consider that identical twins with identical DNA have separate consciousnesses. They're separate. They're not the same people. They have different thoughts. They might have similar desires, or they have twins separated and they both drive the same color car or whatever, as they later discover. That happens. Fine. But I'm talking about, are you hungry in this moment? That's your consciousness telling you that.
Sure.
And your twin just ate an hour ago. Your twin is not having that same thought. This is the big challenge with the transporter in Star Trek. If I disassemble your molecules and reassemble them over there, is your consciousness part of that? Is your consciousness even a transferable entity?
Right.
I don't know. So, and let me ask a more blunt question. Is consciousness even the right question to ask? We think it's the right question. If I pose the question, what kind of cheese is the moon made out of? And you say,
Swiss.
Blue cheese, I think. It's pretty. So you start posing and creating experiments that are designed to test for cheese. But the moon is not made out of cheese. So you ask the wrong question in the first place. Not every question is a legitimate question. And when you're on the frontier, you don't even know what that question is. You got to tiptoe.
Conundrum.
You've got to tiptoe and ask in little bits. Is the moon made of anything? Is it made of atoms? Is it made of rocks? What is it made of? How do I test that? You got to inch your way there. Otherwise, you'll bust out of the doorway with a question you think needs an answer. Like, what is the sound of one hand clapping? Well, just because you assembled nouns and verbs in the right sequence to make a legitimate sentence in the English language does not make it an authentic sentence worthy of scientific attention. The same.
When I think about consciousness, I think about, like, Neil, are you your arms?
I control my arms.
But if you lost them,
I'd still be me. That's right.
What about your heart?
Well, Aristotle thought all emotion was in the heart. Here's what I think about often. And that stayed with us through like the Renaissance until we had some understanding of the brain. It was like, what does your heart tell you? Your heart is just pumping blood. Okay?
You're like, well, this valve to that valve in the chamber said.
So your heart doesn't know anything about anything, all right? It's leftover from a time when we thought all of that our emotional center was located in our heart. And Aristotle had a lot to do with that misinformation, that misunderstanding. So I always wondered if Aristotle said your emotions are in your pancreas, then I wonder if on Valentine's Day, images of the pancreas or some other organ, it's just by happenstance that the heart stayed with us.
Well, so then there's another sort of,
So if you get a love note from someone that has a pancreas, just give it a chance.
Just give it a shot. Yeah. So it makes me think of chakras. It makes me think of energy centers when you go into more of the, Eastern philosophies of, the energy centers of our, root chakra, solar plex, crown chakra, all the 7 chakras. Like maybe the heart operates with those thoughts. So it's that energy center giving you a feeling. Do you believe in that?
So I'm not convinced. I mean, I've seen the chakra charts and other sort of Eastern ways of observing and thinking about life and the universe. And let me answer that 2 ways. I could first say there's no way any bit of science has ever found a way to justify that. But that's too blunt. Let me be a little more, a little softer. And that is, it is possible to have a philosophy about how something works that's wrong, yet there's still benefit to be obtained from it. So what would be an example of that? What's a good example? So let's take a chiropractic, for example, okay? If you read the foundations of chiropractic, it's like no. It's like, no.
Got that right. I'm writing that down. Don't ever go to a chiropractor again.
No. Look at the charts that say everything about your body emanates from spinal column vertebrae. Okay, you catch a cold, there's a line into your vertebrae. So manipulate the vertebrae and everything is cured. Go look at early writings about the chiropractic arts. Okay. So what happens? You go to a chiropractor, they'll pop your back and they manipulate it and it feels good. Whether or not it cured your common cold.
Placebo.
Whether or not it cured your cancer. Whether or not anything else happened, people still derive some curative elements from it. So in science, what we try to do is extract what it is the essence of what it is they're doing and only apply that. Mm-hmm. That's what we try to do. It's very reductionist, but that's how we got civilization. Reductionist is, there's this whole thing, reductionist is you're chewing on this bark and your pain goes away. Well, is it the bark or is it there's some chemical in the bark? Let me find out. Oh, here's this chemical.
It's ayahuasca.
It's acetylsalicylic acid. Oh my gosh, that's aspirin. Aspirin. So here's a lump of bark and here's a pill. What are you going to do? You chew on the bark, you're going to take the pill.
I'm going to take the pill.
Because I found what's in the bark that does it. But you might have had a whole philosophy about bark, that the tree has a spirit energy, and that tree in particular is touched by the gods, and the gods want you to feel better and to relieve your pain. So the gods put this special magic potion in the bark, and you chew the bark and you're all better. I found the aspirin, here it is, go buy it in the grocery store for $2. And so, is it sad that I've bypassed the entire cultural, spiritual rituals of it? I don't think it's sad. I'll tell you why. Look at how many rituals we still participate in.
Oh yeah, true.
And they're beautiful and they're sensitive and they're reflective. Look at what Jews do in Passover. There's a Seder. And in the Seder, they leave an empty seat for Elijah and they have to unlock the front door in case Elijah shows up at your Seder. Do they really think that's going to happen? I don't think they really think Elijah's coming. And if it's a stranger, I'm Elijah, let me in. They're not letting him in. I'm pretty sure they're not letting that person in. But the ritual of it can be very communal. And there's so much of what binds us socially that derives from ritual, be it religious ritual or some other cultural ritual. We play the national anthem at the beginning of games. That kind of binds us all. At the beginning of sporting events, if the Canadians are there, we also play the Canadian national anthem. You take off your hat, you salute, you hug on certain holidays. Thanksgiving, we have turkey.
Yeah.
I'm not here to judge the value of those rituals scientifically. I'm here to celebrate the values of those rituals culturally. I don't have a problem with it.
This kind of gets me into the feels of
wait, by the way, there's some, sorry to interrupt.
No, go for it.
Don't lose that thought. There are some rituals that might be hurtful to you.
Sure.
Okay? And that's why I would draw the line. I say, if my rituals,
Catholics do that.
If it's hurtful to you or to myself, I want someone to step in. I'd want someone to, there's some Catholic traditions, particularly in Central South America, where in Easter, people will go on their knees in the way that Jesus was carrying the cross to suffer like Jesus suffered. And I thought Jesus suffered so we don't have to suffer.
Right.
That was my memory.
I thought no meat on Friday was enough, right? You know?
Right. So,
yeah.
No, it's not just no meat on Friday. It's fish on Friday. Because when that rule came in, it was the fishermen were not getting as much business as the rest of the food producers. And the Pope got a message from God that one day a week you have to eat fish. So it's not a no meat day, it's a fish day. So you are still eating dead animals, but it kept the fishermen. Yeah, so that's how you get messages from God.
Man, I thought, I thought that it was because meat was a luxury. It's always were like pulling back from the luxury.
It's always been a luxury, for sure. Very expensive to produce meat relative to other foods.
What the hell did Moses? What's the deal with Moses?
Well, knowing the Ten Commandments says thou shalt not eat meat on Fridays. Maybe that's in the 11th through 15th commandment that got lost on the mountain.
Scientifically, where did his information come from for the Ten Commandments?
Well, so what's interesting to me is, people need rules.
Yeah.
Without rules, it's sad that we need rules. But or no, it's not that we need rules. Of course we need rules. But we need threat of punishment for not following rules. And for some people, I think prison isn't enough, right? And so if there's a higher power above us all that could damn you to hell for eternity, that might keep you in line. Okay? My issue with the Ten Commandments was that, why is thou shalt not kill, number 6? I'm thinking that should have been a little higher. I'm just thinking.
The neighbor's wife just doesn't seem like as big of a deal as killing.
Or graven images, or one God verse. I'm thinking, let's up that a little if I had my druthers. Plus, depending on which version of the Bible you use, the commandments are not exactly in the same order as each other. So there's some variation. But in none of them is thou shalt not kill number 1. Yet that is the highest level transgression we have in modern society. It's
true.
So we have made a judgment on the rest of the commandments.
Sure.
Saying, no, we don't really care about the graven image. No, don't bear false witness. That's a bad thing. But we're not going to punish you and damn you forever for that.
It's a human element. Humans decided marijuana was illegal until recently.
Until it was not illegal. Right, exactly.
Right? It's just a human decision.
And, right. So morality is actually this moving target. I don't want to claim that it's a bounce back and forth target, but morality, if you look over time, has evolved to be sort of, not in every place, of course, but morality's evolved to be more inclusive and more forgiving and more accommodating. And so morality, it's a huge philosophical frontier. Mm-hmm. Where do you get morality from? Right. And many people want to say, well, we get it from my religion. No, you actually don't. You actually don't. What you've done is cherry-picked your religion and picked the things that make most sense in modern society. Mm. And then you say, I get my morality from religion. What you did, you used secular reasoning to filter out so many of the statements that are made in the Bible, especially the Old Testament, for example, where, it's, if your children disobey you, you should stone them. Well, no, we're not doing that. I'm sorry.
That's the jail threat.
Okay.
By the way, Mom and Dad, that's the jail threat.
Okay. We are not going to stone our children for disobeying us. We're
not to say no one has.
Let's go to the next one. Okay. Yeah. And by the way, this section of the Bible, it's in Leviticus, also contains the one where you shouldn't be homosexual. Right. Okay. That's in the same section of the Bible that says, you should stone your children if they disobey. Okay. So you are cherry picking.
Right.
And so what's happened, and plus the Bible was used to justify slavery. Why? Because nowhere in the Bible, Old or New Testament, is slavery objected to. It is passive or supportive in its attitudes towards slavery. So most of what justified slavery over so many years came from people's readings of Scripture. There are some other readings of Scripture. You got to go to the New Testament for this, and you got to go to Jesus, and it's do unto others as you have others do unto, there's this sort of golden rule kind of thing, and other ways to think about it. The Quakers were totally and Quakers are Christian, totally anti-slavery from the get-go. Mm-hmm. From the get-go. And they were driven by religious means. And you have the whole civil rights movement, which had a secular atheistic dimension to it, but that was not talked up in the press. Philip Randolph and others, they were atheists. Some of them were even like communists, atheist communists, who were there for the worker and workers' rights and this, not the capitalist rights, but the workers' rights. Martin Luther King was the one that the press focused on because we were still a Cold War, and you can't have heroes who are sympathizes with the Communist Party. So Martin Luther King gets the positive attention from the press, but he gets his roots from the Bible and this. So you're cherry picking to suit what your needs are at the time.
You know a lot about the Bible. Old Testament, New Testament.
Can I tell you why?
This is kind of blowing my mind being a scientist. So you're going to have to explain to me how you know so much.
Can I tell you why?
Yeah, please.
I was minding my own business. Just doing my astrophysics. Okay? Really. I was just minding my own business in the corner. I got my calculus books, all right. And people would come up to me and say,
I never took calculus. I want you to make sure you know that. Don't
okay, you'd be a little more comfortable with infinity if you took calculus.
Okay, see? There you go. I'll go back. Okay, get back.
Yeah, go back.
Go back. Mind your own business. Okay. Got your calculus
You could
books,
probably afford a private tutor.
Big calculator.
Get a private calculus tutor, and you'll come out of that saying, I'm good with infinities.
I have a GED, okay?
All right. So people started asking me, as you study the universe, have you found God? Does studying the universe make you closer to God?
Like thinking he's a dude out there?
Or no, just spiritually, philosophically. Are you? Some might wonder if it's literal. Okay?
Did you find him?
Did you find him? Yeah, he's behind the corner.
Can you let him know I would like to talk to him?
He's behind the moon. So I would have answers, but I realized if I'm an educator, I can't just give any answer off the cuff. It needs to be informed. It needs to be researched.
Knowledge is power.
It needs to be, I need to do my homework.
Okay.
Before I start speaking on this topic.
Respect.
So I started buying the books. So I bought, the Torah. And so that's just purely the Old Testament. All right. Translated, of course, because I can't read Hebrew. And then I got the, King James, New Testament. And then I got modern translations of the New Testament that use modern language. And then I got analysis of the Bibles. And then I got...
God, you read all these?
Book. Yes. Well, I mean, I let me not say I know what's in them. And I went to passages that are more... I mean, there are places you don't... There's the whole section of the Bible where it's who begat who. That's not scintillating reading. So I skip over that. I'm sorry. Forgive me.
That's okay. You're
okay. I'm forgiven. Your producer forgives me.
You've blown me away with your information about the Bible. So.
Okay. So you find a place in the Bible, for example, where the value of pi equals 3.0.
What?
They got it wrong. Yeah. Yeah. They got it wrong.
Yeah.
Tell you why? So in 1 Kings 7, that part of the Bible, they're describing King Solomon's property, the castle and his palace and the surrounding grounds. Mm-hmm. And there's a pond there. And here is the statement. You ready? The pond is round on all sides.
Okay.
30 cubits around, 10 cubits across. The value of pi is the ratio of the circumference of a circle to its diameter. So 30 divided by 10 equals 3.0. Now, had they said 31 cubits around, because fractions and decimals weren't a big thing back, and 10 cubits across, they would have been much better. They would have gotten 3.1, and we'd say, hey, they got a thing, they got an understanding there. Mm-hmm. And the best estimates of pi of the day was not much different, but there was a better estimate of pi than 3.0. The Babylonians had 3.14, mm-hmm. and that preceded the writing of that section of the Bible. So my only point is, so I learned all of this. And so now when people start asking me, do I see God? Do I know God? Well, how do I know the science is wrong and the Bible is right? Or which is which? I can engage that conversation in an informed, and I'd like to even declare respectful way. Yeah. I'm not here to bash people. I'm here to just share with people what is objectively true in the world.
Are you spiritual?
So that's the late.
Because there's the new hot button.
That's the new word.
Spiritual versus religious.
Yeah. Yes. Are
you
spiritual? Is like the fastest growing
community.
Community.
I'm a cult leader, so no.
These are people who. Spiritual people. We wouldn't call them spiritualists because those in a day were people who talk to the dead. So, or spiritual mediums, they would talk to.
Yeah.
So, if you are spiritual today, that means You feel there's something out there beyond what we know, could be a God, but you're not affiliated with any organized religion. That is the fastest growing. So let me back that up. People not affiliated with any religion would include atheists. That's the fastest growing community.
I saw a religion called Omnism. It was Omnism, which is the belief that no religions are true, but there's truth within all of them. I would say that's me. Okay. I've always been very skeptical.
Okay. But now you have to visit each religion and find out what is true.
True.
And then staple all that together to get your omnism. And that's hard. Let me back up. Mm-hmm. I can tell you certain things that are objectively false. The Earth is not 6,000 years old. I got this one. Okay? Why
do people have denial about like the science of the age of the Earth or age of the, how long humans have been around? Okay. And
I have thought a lot about this.
Yes.
And I've concluded there are 3 truths. Write them down.
Yes, I'm ready.
3 truths.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yes.
All right. Sorry, there are 3 kinds of truths, not 3 answers.
Okay.
One kind of truth is an objective truth. This is what is researched and established by the methods and tools of science. This is what is true, whether or not you believe in it. It's how we make electricity work. It's how the physics of your cars you drive works. It's how Earth moves around the sun. It's how energy from the sun powers the ecosystem and the biosphere.
You can't argue this.
Those are objective truths. You can argue it, but it won't matter if you argue it. Right. It's true whether or not you argue it.
It's your
okay,
physicist section in the bookstore.
Correct. Second kind of truth. It's a personal truth. These are truths that are true to you. They are true down to your bones. Jesus is your Savior. Muhammad is your prophet. This is true no matter what. And no one is going to take it from you, at least not in a free society. No one is going to take that from you.
Okay.
Our religion and our faiths and our beliefs in our faiths are constitutionally protected conduct of American citizens. It's what attracted so many immigrants over the decades where their religion was persecuted, where they were, and they come here and they knew they wouldn't be persecuted. Okay. Hence, the religious melting pot that we actually are. Okay. So, that's your truth, but watch what happens. The only way you can get me to share that truth is by some intense bout of persuasion or by threat of force, violence, or death. I have a different personal truth than you. Do you require that I share your personal truth? We will go to war over that. You know why? Because my personal truth tells me that your personal truth is false. Most religions, most monotheistic, the great monotheistic religions, have as part of their tenet that other religions are false.
Right.
So each one says the other one is false. And curiously, our country protects that. It allows you to say that your belief is true and everyone else is false, and it allows me to say the same damn thing about you. So you live in a community where your folks are, and you go to your place of worship on Saturday or Sunday, and I go to mine. I pray 5 times a day to Mecca. I do that with my community. And by the way, we both work together in the same office. Okay, historically, you didn't have places like the United States, and whole legions would fight the Crusades. Just look at what people did to each other because their personal truths were not shared
don't we still do
by
that?
Others. Yes, but yes.
It used to be worse.
It used to be a daily thing.
Anything.
Now we have wars over, access to resources and things.
Oil.
Yeah, oil and some other dogma that might have arisen, like Nazism or, that you can have dogma. Oh, by the way, dogma is equally as bad as, Dogma can drive you to war just as readily as strongly held religious beliefs.
Yeah.
Because dogma is, this is true no matter what you tell me.
Yeah.
And that doesn't have to involve God. That could involve any other.
It's just a strong belief.
A strong belief.
Yeah.
Okay. It means you're not susceptible to conversation and a new idea that could put you in a new place. You're sealed off from arguments of reason. So that's a personal truth. There's a third kind of truth. It's a political truth. This is what you think is true because someone repeated it to you often enough.
Programming.
Programming. That's correct.
That's why we watch the program, for the programming.
What is Hillary's first name? Crooked Hillary. That's her first name. I didn't know that. Okay. This is how we get.
TV told me.
The TV told me. So, what I will say about these three truths is, in a pluralistic country, a pluralistic land, if you are going to make laws that apply to everyone, it seems to me you should base them on what is objectively true and not as on any one person's personal truth, which would then affect everybody else who doesn't share your personal belief. And if you put it on a political, quote, truth, then that will blow like the breeze. Some other power rises up and they tell you something else, and now that person who used to be your friend is now your enemy. Let me tell you how political truths can evolve. The Republicans are not historically, in recent decades, not known for being cuddly with minority groups. Okay? If you look at how minority groups vote, generally it's not Republican. You could say, why? Well, the policies might conflict with ideas, da-da-da-da-da. Fine. Do you know who the first Republican president was?
George Washington.
No. Oh, he knows. Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln, friend of the slaves. Abraham Lincoln, first Republican president. The Republicans were the anti-slavery party, while the Democrats were perfectly fine keeping slaves.
Yeah, love it. Way to go.
Now, wait a minute. So what happens? The South had all the slaves. So the South is not going to be Republican. The South was Democrats. And they were Democrats from the Civil War for 100 years. 100 years. In the South, they had Jim Crow, they had segregation, they had all of that. And they were just fine with it. And from the 1960s through basically President Reagan in the 1980s, that flipped. The Republicans saw that they can get a stronghold in the South by altering their policies and saying, yeah, we don't really want the equality here or whatever it was and keep this going. And they, one by one, they absorbed the Dixiecrats, the Dixie Democrats became Republicans. So I'm saying, if you're going to base your life on political truths, know that someone else is defining for you what it is you think is right and wrong and what is true and not. And as an academic, and especially as a scientist, I don't want anybody else doing my thinking for me. And political truths are someone else telling you what to think and how to think.
Do you think...
I'm screaming at you here, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's good.
Right?
No, it's a passion. I love it.
Just is. So getting back to...
Do you think that we need to think more for ourselves? I feel like there's this is a wave of coming. It's kind of it's spirituality. It's hot buttons. It's like, think for ourselves a little bit more. Do you feel this? Do you think this is a good thing?
I agree, but I'd rather say it differently.
Okay. Yeah.
Rather than say think for yourself, because sometimes there's an expert who knows more about something than you.
True.
And if you have reason to trust that person, you trust him. Okay? If this building is on fire and we're 14 flights up, and I say there's a sheet over there and we can strap it to the thing, we can jump out the window and glide to that thing, I bet you'll believe me because I'm trained in physics And I know something about aerodynamics. You're not going to say, well, no, I don't. Okay, goodbye. I'll jump out.
I should have had you work on my race car for all the physics that you know.
Well, no, you got plenty of physics folks in NASCAR. I've spoken with a couple of them. And so there's the points where, yes, you'll trust someone without having to question it. But those extreme, that's obviously a contrived example. But what you should do is when someone is speaking to you, a pundit, you should not just believe everything they say. You should wonder if everything they say is true and use it as an excuse to go back and do a Google search or go check on that statement or go check on all of these things. And the act of checking, you end up learning.
Yeah.
Why is it that we live in a world where no matter what grade you're in, the last day of school in May or in June, you run down, I'm stereotyping here. You run down the steps, toss your books in the air and say, school's out.
Yeah.
You're glad.
I did that very thing.
That school is out.
Yeah.
What did we do to you in school so that when school is out, you're glad you're not in school? Something is wrong.
Yeah.
What I want to have happen is what we do in school is such that on the last day of school, you say, oh, school's out.
Makes me
I have to go 3 months without learning anything. Your only job in school is to learn.
Knowledge is power. I believe that. And this reminds me of how I feel about food. When people are like, oh gosh, I'm on a diet. I have to eat this healthy food. All I want is the pancakes and my cheat meal. It's like, how about you change your psyche a little bit and go, man, this is delicious. I'm going to put a little of this seasoning on it. We have like the wrong thought process for some things that we have now culturally convinced ourselves that certain things are good, certain things are bad, when all we need to do is change our point of perception.
That is true for so many things. And let me tell you my thoughts about food. I'm disturbed. That's too heavy a word. I'm concerned that in America, we view food that has high calories as bad, when most of this world does not even get their minimum calories in a day. We are so wealthy. We have so much access to food that a high-calorie food is considered bad. And I cringe every time I see that and hear that, because I think of how many, is it millions? The number, I forgot the number, but it's millions.
Starving.
Children starve to death, either because not enough food or because of malnutrition that comes from not having enough food. Right? 'Cause you can die just because your body eats its own calorie content and then you just drop dead. Or you can be malnourished and then you're susceptible to diseases that are opportunistic under those situations. I'm telling you, the United States might be the only country in the world that has overweight homeless people. Think about that.
Oh, that doesn't make sense.
I don't know what their vitamin level is, but they're getting plenty of calories.
Yeah.
Okay, the donuts are doing them just fine.
Yeah.
And so there's another thing. I'm sensitive to people who can't help themselves for whatever reason, whatever they got the wrong hand dealt or they need motivation. The people that step over a homeless person to go help a stray dog. There's a homeless human being that's your species sitting right here that you just ignored. What are you doing? Now, don't get me wrong. I love me some dogs, okay? But if I have to rank how I'm going to invest my time and energy and resources, it's going to be to help people. And in there, sure, I'll help a couple of dogs. I don't have a problem with that. But I'm going to say, oh, there's a dog in trouble over here, not even see the homeless person? Oh my gosh. So it's an outlook thing. And I'll only give, here's what I do, just as a matter of policy. If I go to a restaurant, I eat well at a restaurant, and I have a doggy bag, if I pass a homeless person, they're getting a doggy bag.
Yeah.
No matter how expensive that food was.
Sure. How delicious and how the leftovers were like,
The leftovers, I can't wait for tomorrow morning to have the leftovers for breakfast, right?
The steak's going with your eggs.
Exactly. No, it goes in the lap of the homeless person. But if I have my choice of homeless person, it's going to the thinnest person I see.
who's in the most need.
Right. So yes, outlook, I think, is everything.
What are some other things that you're passionate about? And they could be passions like that it's not necessarily about stars and dark matter, but what other things?
I guess I'm speaking what sounds like it's passion, but it's really just an interest, a deep interest.
Yeah.
Maybe it is passion, but I like old books.
Oh. Okay.
Okay. Get that digital book reader out of here.
Oh, me too.
Okay.
Yes. All the way.
Do you realize a physical book never runs out of batteries? Did you know that?
Ever. It's still there.
Ever.
And it even smells unique and cool.
Ever. So
some people write in them. It's fun.
I have books. I collect books that go back in time that capture a moment in our collective thinking that pivot in a moment in our collective thinking where we have a new understanding of the universe or of our place within the universe. And this allows me, it's humbling because you see the struggle that people went through to get something that we today just take for granted.
Yeah.
As though the knowledge on wiki pages is handed down from on high. No, somebody figured that out.
And it's staying around. Here's the thing that scares me about digital. It's a click away from being gone. I think about my bank account. I'm like, oh, sure.
A click away. Someone hacks a satellite.
I don't know.
That's right.
I don't know. What was the last book you read?
I dip into a lot of books in different ways. But I think the last book I read, so I have several going right now, but the last book I finished was a book I'd actually read long ago, but I read it again, and it's Barry Goldwater's The Conscience of a Conservative.
Look at you! It's you going into the conscious stuff.
No, but it's not conscious. It's just the mind of it, because that's really what it should be.
Of the conservative world.
Yeah. So Barry Goldwater was, a very well-known and popular conservative politician in the United States who actually ran for president and lost. And this is during the Cold War. So in this book, he's trying to say that conservative thinking is better than liberal thinking and it's better than communism. I like knowing how other people think.
Sure.
I would classify myself as liberal in most ways that matter socially.
Yeah.
Probably fiscally centrist, I would say. I like learning how conservative people think and how they make decisions. And what's interesting, people say, tell me all the books on your shelf. And they're expecting books to be all the stuff that I already agree with.
That's very smart of you.
But what's on
Always
my shelf,
read the other side.
I read it all the time. That's why I have a shelf of Bibles. I have a shelf of UFO sightings.
Sure.
I have a shelf of all these.
Don't worry, I want to ask you about aliens. Okay, we're going to get there.
You can.
The last book I read, though, was Holographic Universe.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Have you?
No, I saw it, and I haven't read it.
Very thought-provoking.
Yes. A guy from up at MIT, I think, wrote that. Or was there another author? Do you remember the author of this one?
I can't remember off the top of my head.
Oh yeah. So Holographic Universe, that's very freaky. It's freaky stuff. That we might just be a two-dimensional hologram of some other reality.
What do you think of that?
I think
the probability.
The universe has told us that anything that is possible may just be likely. And we could just be information contained in a membrane surrounding some other volume. And it's the illusion of a reality, but in fact, we're just this holographic projection of information. Yeah, it's deep.
It's very, it took me a while to read.
Completely deep.
It's very interesting, and it makes you think. It makes you think in new ways about the mind. It makes you think about the power of the mind, really, which is something that's very intriguing to me.
Well, so let me
consciousness, but really the power of the mind.
Let me disavow you of that, if I may.
Yeah.
Okay. We figured out a lot of stuff. We've got art and music and poetry and the Hubble telescope, and we've walked on the moon. The human mind is something else. Okay. Do you know our closest genetic relative? Yes, you do.
Yeah.
Just say it.
Monkeys?
You know. Yeah, chimpanzees. Okay. Chimpanzees, 99.5% identical DNA to us.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So By the way, they have every muscle and every bone in the same place that we do.
Yeah.
And they're comfortable, you cross your legs, they're comfortable crossing their legs, sitting there and leaning on a thing. They have an itch, they scratch it. They want to cough, they cough. Okay. Except they like termites and weeds. Okay. All right. Other than that, we're identical. No.
I like some weird stuff too.
Okay.
You know?
I'm not going to ask you what you're pulling out of there. So the urge, and this is our ego doing this, the urge is to say, what a difference that 1.5% makes. By the way, it may be as low as 1%, but it's small. I don't remember the exact number, but it's what a difference that 1% makes. We have civilization. And the smartest chimpanzee can stack boxes to reach a banana. Our toddlers can figure that out.
I've seen young children stack things well.
Okay. So, maybe, allow me to pose you this question. Maybe the difference between the human and the chimpanzee at the 1% DNA is the same small difference as between stacking boxes to reach a banana and the Hubble Space Telescope. You're saying, no, come on, what are you saying? Obviously, the telescope is much more advanced than a chimp figuring out to stack boxes. Tell me, you're going to say that. Okay. Now, here's the thought experiment. Imagine here's a simple sentence. You ready? Okay, Danica, I hear you're flying back to LA tomorrow. You catch a plane, you fly United out of Newark or wherever. You land 5 hours later, and you have a dinner engagement with friends at your favorite restaurant. Okay? There's nothing in that sentence that would make sense to a chimpanzee. What is an airplane? What is, 10 o'clock in the morning? What is a restaurant? What, the food just comes to you? What? What is that? Where did it come from? What? Oh, you have a whole supply chain from farms. And the chimp would have no idea. And that is the simplest sentence you would utter in the day.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, imagine a life form, an alien even, I don't care, some life form that is 1% beyond us in DNA.
Where's that?
That we are beyond the chimp. The smartest of us would be brought forth by this species, and they'll say, they'll roll Stephen Hawking forward and say, this one is slightly smarter than all the other humans because he can do astrophysics calculations in his head, like little Timmy over here who just came home from alien preschool. Oh, Timmy, isn't that cute? Oh, you just derived principles of calculus. Isn't that nice? They put it on the refrigerator. Oh, you just composed a sonnet. Oh, that's so cute. Their simplest thoughts would be inconceivable to the most brilliant human beings at only 1% difference in DNA. Suppose they were 5%, 10%, 50%, 100%. So I will not walk forward and say, look how smart we are. I will not do that. I'd rather wallow in how smart we're not relative to how smart we could be. Now, we have an advantage because we communicate. You can benefit from calculations done by engineers and physicists who came before you to drive a car fast.
Thank you.
You don't have to invent that yourself. Right. There are books, Kindles today, and that pass that information forward. Isaac Newton invented calculus, basically on a dare. And he did it before he turned 26, just by the way. By the way. So, we get to bankroll his advances, and then think of it as rungs on a ladder. He built that rung right there. Now I can climb up, step on that, and put in the next ladder, rung on the ladder. And then someone after me and someone after them. So our species collectively may be able to transcend itself, transcend the individual.
So if we can, let's go down the alien path here. Okay, It's time. So you talked about the 1%, and what if there was another species that was 1% beyond, and let's call that another 1%. Do you believe that there's two parts of this, that the human body becomes something different, a different form as it evolves into to the 1% more, 1% more, 1% more? And then the second part of it is, do you think that we're looking for the wrong damn thing in space? We're looking for us. But we live in this perfect environment, right? This ecosystem that is used to describe in the cosmos, like one little thing changes and then something else, nothing exists here. And it's all about the air quality. I mean, like all of that stuff matters critically to the life on Earth. So are we looking for the wrong thing?
All right, so our body is pretty irrelevant to our brain when you're just figuring stuff out. I mean, the best evidence of that is Stephen Hawking. Okay, case closed.
Yep.
Okay, I win that argument.
Yeah, totally. Definitely. Let's get him a trophy.
We got it. So the evolution of the body, I don't think is even relevant. It's the evolution of the mind that would get you to these new places, this extra 1% or 1% beyond that, or 1% beyond that. Yeah, it'd be nice if we had 8 limbs, but we don't. It'd be nice if we could regenerate limbs. By the way, we're not some model of evolution. Newts can regenerate limbs. Newts. If they wrote the Tree of Life book, they put themselves at the top. Say, we can reach all those poor humans. They lose a limb, they're stuck for the rest of their lives. If we were owls, we say, we can fly, and those poor humans, those suckers, they can't. And they're such crappy vision. They need to wear these things on their eyes just to see
like
one tenth as well as we do.
You don't have sonar?
Out of the box.
People are
the bats
terrible.
are saying, you can't.
Bats are like, you don't have sonar?
Exactly. So the mind is what would have to evolve there. Now, are we looking for the wrong thing? I don't think so. We're carbon-based life. Carbon on the periodic table of elements, which you may remember from chemistry class, periodic table. Carbon is the stickiest of all the elements. It can make more kinds of molecules than all other kinds of atoms combined.
Wow.
So if you were to pick one atom off of that table and base the diversity of life on it, it would be carbon.
Got it.
It gives you the most variation, the most options, the most experiments.
Are we looking for carbon on other planets then?
Well, turns out carbon is one of the most abundant elements in the universe.
Well, where the hell are all the people?
Well, so
wait.
ETs? Not only that, we've got oxygen in us and nitrogen. We are made out of the most common ingredients.
There's a graph I have that I saw that shows the percentage of what we have of each thing, like my words, thing.
Thing.
I'm so sorry. I feel insulting.
But I know exactly what you're talking about.
But like we're this much percent oxygen, this much percent carbon, this percent nitrogen, phosphorus.
That's what we're made of, and that's the most common ingredients in the universe.
Which is why we're stardust.
We're stardust. Not only that's an aspect of why we're stardust. We're stardust because those elements. The heavy elements in particular, the carbon, the nitrogen, the oxygen, the iron, are made in the cores of stars that explode, scatter that enrichment across the galaxy, allowing the next generation of stars to have those elements that can make planets and life. So it's not simply that we are in this universe. The universe is in us.
Yes.
We are not. It's not just poetically true, it is literally true that we are stardust. And so when we look for life in the universe, it's not unrealistic to look for carbon-based life.
Right.
It's just not. And plus we have an example of it here. So how many other ways might there be to be alive? There could be many. But if you have a limited budget, and can design only one experiment, are you going to pluck at random one of these 100 ways that life might be alive that you've never tested before, that you don't have any evidence of? Or are you going to try the one way we know that life does exist? So we're self-aware of that limitation, but it's not a crazy limitation to operate on. It's not.
So are aliens real?
Probably. There's no life started on Earth pretty quickly, with almost as quickly as the environment allowed. We had self-replicating life.
I love.
It took about 100 million years.
I love in the cosmos how you go to the calendar.
Oh, the cosmic calendar.
Cosmic
That traces
calendar.
back to the original Cosmos with Carl Sagan.
Yeah,
in
which
1980. Yeah.
You know, I know you know Carl Sagan. You
Yeah.
have a good story. How did you tell me the story about Carl Sagan? Because there's a Cosmos 2 coming out too, right?
Yeah. We're still looking for a date for that. Actually, technically, it's Cosmos 3.
Cosmos 3, yeah, of course. If you go
the
Carl,
original,
then you.
Yeah, I gotta get the
got
original.
it.
So we're looking for
Got
the
it.
date
It's like
for
Old
that.
Testament, New Testament, Cosmos 2.
Well, get biblical about it. Fine. Okay. So yeah, I was in high school. I was a geeky kid. I knew my high school.
You're an astrophysicist. It's okay.
Okay.
You're
Okay.
like
I'm just being frank about it.
ever.
Okay.
Ever.
So
you're very funny.
my high school counts 8 Nobel laureates among its graduates.
What? I want some of the water. That's obviously all I know.
Which is the same as the country of Spain. So I'm just saying. So this is a fertile environment, all right? And it's not because of the teachers necessarily. It's because realize how much downtime you spend doing nothing between classes, chasing a love interest, or
Totally.
we're talking about high school now.
Yeah.
Hormones are raging. You're, what else? You're study hall, but you're not really studying. It's lunchtime. You're talking about, at that school, we're talking about who might have an equation named after them in the downtime. Okay?
That's obviously that doesn't make any. That's just like not even in the spectrum of thought.
It's crazy.
Virtually all of humanity.
It's crazy, and not only that, this is how old I am. I'm probably the youngest person who was formally trained in a slide rule.
What is it
A
called?
slide rule. So this is this thing that helps you calculate before calculators.
Oh God, before calculators.
Yeah, there was this device.
There was before calculators?
Yes, there was a BC before calculators.
BCC.
So there's a device that has these sliding sliders in it, and it's highly the numbers all throughout.
This isn't an abacus, is it? No.
No. It's way better than an abacus.
Okay, got it.
But not as good as a calculator.
Okay.
And so you slide these. You say, I want to multiply 387 by 28, and you'd slide these things, and you can get the answer. Okay, it's called a slide rule. The bigger the slide rule, the more nuanced your numbers can be, because you can then read between the tick marks. Okay, so in my high school,
Wow.
you'd walk down the corridor, if you had the biggest slide rule, you were badass, okay? Because you have it in a holster, because you can't carry it in anything else. They came in leather holsters.
What?
Attaching to your belt.
Oh my
Oh,
God.
that's how old I am.
You were
But
born
anyhow,
and bred to be the coolest geek ever.
No, but wait a minute. So I'm in high school, and I apply to colleges. And so I'm admitted to this set of colleges, which includes Cornell. And I've known since I was 9 through 11 that that the universe, in fact, the universe was calling me. I had nothing to do with it.
No choice.
I had no choice. Thank you. So I'm there, and I get a letter in the mail from Carl Sagan. He was already famous. He had been on The Tonight Show. He hadn't yet done Cosmos, but he was already famous. Mm-hmm. And I said, I got a letter from Carl Sagan. He doesn't know. I don't know this man. What is this?
Wait, in high school?
In high school.
Did you write some paper, a theory?
No, so watch. So I did write a paper and published in the Physical Science Journal.
Of course you did. You're in high school.
Of the Bronx High School of Science. I was editor-in-chief of the Physical Science Journal. But that's not relevant to this. That's just more geeky stuff that one does in high school. Okay. Oh, by the way, just so you know, that high school it's actually a regular high school, just shifted towards the geek end of the spectrum.
Yeah, it sounds really regular.
So we had jocks, but they were geek jocks. And we had geeky people, but they were really, really geeky people. So, and we had bullies, but they were geek bullies,
Where'd you fall in?
I was geek jock.
Geek jock.
Yeah.
Cool. What'd you play?
I wrestled.
Oh, cool.
I was undefeated and captain of the team.
Dang.
Well, that's high school. Got to college, not so much. Because get to college, wrestle these boys from Nebraska.
Oh yeah, the hay
corn-fed.
bales,
Yeah. It's like I come out of the mat. Well, let me put this cow down off my shoulders, then we'll wrestle. It's like, okay, we got another situation here.
They call that farm strong.
Farm strong, very good, very good. So I knew when I was not in the right place.
No more wrestling in college.
But no, I still wrestled because I didn't care that I won. I just enjoyed the sport,
okay.
And I enjoyed knowing that if you lost, it's because they were better than you. And you can know what to do. You can't blame it on anybody. It's you.
It is what it is.
It's you. Okay. So why did I take that whole diversion? Oh, so I'm there in high school. I get the letter from Carl Sagan. Open up. It says, Dear Neil, the admissions office showed me your application to college. And knowing that they admitted you, I want to help you decide whether you want to come to Cornell. Would you like to come visit my labs? It's like, what? Is this the same Carl Sagan? Yeah, what? And
That's what I thought when you said you'd come do the interview with me. I'm like, what? Are you kidding me? Neil's gay. Are you kidding me?
So, no, I
did double check. I'm like, he's on his way, right?
Right. So I like doing people's podcasts in their early days. I love doing that.
You're catching me on
literally
day two.
Just to help birth more places where people can learn and hear intelligent conversation held by curious, talented people. So I just like helping to birth people's podcasts.
Thank you.
So I had
just like Carl took you on as a young high school boy.
That's what it was. So here's what. Oh, by the way, I only now learned that you came to one of my public talks.
I did.
And so just so you know, it's authentic that this interest is real. It's not just okay. Well, she was a fan. I guess I better. No, it was pure. I just want you to know that. Okay. So. I wrote him back and said, yeah. And so I visited him. He met me outside. It was a weekend, and it was it looked like it was going to snow. This is Ithaca, New York, where it snows all the time.
Most, like 11 months of the year. 11
and a half months of the year. It's snowing and cloudy. So I'm there. He takes me up to the lab, shows me the lab, shows me the department. I'm in his office, and this was the coolest thing ever.
Oh my gosh.
He doesn't even look back. He's behind his desk, and he reaches behind him and pulls out a book, and it's one of the books he wrote. I said, that's badass. I'm sorry. That's just badass. You don't even have to look, and a book you pick out. And he signed it to me, says, Dear Neil, future astronomer. I still have that book. And at the end, he's taking me back to the bus station. It actually began to snow. And he says, look, if the bus doesn't come through, here's my home phone. You can come spend the night with my family and leave in the morning. It's like, okay, the bus did come through.
Please snow.
That's what people said. I would have said that the bus didn't come through. So people told me this. But no, I was more honest than that. And my lesson from that was that, because I said to myself, if I'm ever as remotely famous as Carl Sagan, I will treat students the way he has treated me. And I could be on the phone, Barack, okay, I got to call you back. I got a student, at the door. And eventually I'd written enough books so that I could do that.
You could blindly reach back for one of them. I could blindly reach back
for a book. And so when I'm in the presence of students, it's a sense of duty, an obligation. I don't like that word because it sounds like it's a chore, but it's a sense of duty is a better word, where the torch of science has to be carried forward, lest it become extinguished and we live in the darkness of ignorance.
So then, look, I know I've taken a lot of your time, but I think this is a good lead into like the final thought, final kind of question, although I have more. Like, never mind. But that's for part 2. But what is the point of all this? What is the point? You say you want to give back to students, and that's important to you. What is the point of life?
Are you really asking what is the meaning of life? Or is your question
no? What are we here to do?
That? What are we here to do?
Yeah, you feel called to help people. You feel
well. No. I feel called to discover the universe, But in there, if someone wants to also do that, yeah, I feel compelled. But if no one else wanted to do it, I'm not going to force anyone to like the universe. No. But if you like it, or if because I said something you do want to do science, yeah, I feel some duty. I feel some sense of accountability for someone's interests if they saw a cosmos and then they want to become a scientist. So I feel some responsibility there.
Well, then maybe the first question is how do we take science and how do we make sure that that stays relevant and expanding?
So what we need is a reality show where you get someone who's in denial of science, then overnight you take everything out of their life that is science-enabled. Okay? Where's my cell phone? Sorry, that uses GPS satellites. It's a space program and thermal physics and electrical engineering. And so there it is. I think Earth is flat. Okay, so you don't get to fly in an airplane because you might fly off the edge of the Earth. Okay, so you will travel nowhere.
And you're definitely not going to Pluto because it is not a planet.
Don't get me started. So I think we need a reality show where we take science away from science deniers. And what you do is you have to put a limit to that because there's a level at which you can take away science where they would just be dead. They would have died in childbirth. They would have died of some curable disease. So you say, I'm going to be nice to you and not take away so much science that you'd be 6 feet under right now. So I don't know. I just made that up on the spot. But yeah, it's a problem. What you need is scientifically literate people who are in charge. Because in a free country, it's your right to not be scientifically literate at all. Just don't control anything that can affect the health, wealth, and security of other people. Because innovations in science, technology, engineering, and math will be the roots of the future of our health, wealth, and security. And if you don't know that, you might as well just move back to the cave because that's where we're going to be anyway. Now, why are we alive? Why are we here? What's the point? Here's some motivation for you. Okay?
Got my pen back out.
Go back to the pen.
Uh-huh.
All right. The human genome can combine in trillions of ways to make a human. What that means is, well, so now, put a pin in that. How many humans have ever been born? Latest estimates, it's about 80 billion.
Okay.
Trillions is a way bigger number than 80 billion. Okay. Taking a cue from a passage in a book written by Richard Dawkins, the biologist, evolutionary biologist. One day, we're all going to die. And that's sad when someone dies. However, not enough of us spend time celebrating the fact that we were alive at all. We...
As individuals or collectively?
At all, individually. You are lucky that you get to die. Because
changing your perspective.
Most humans who could ever exist never will.
There's been more, I think I've heard you say it, there's been more humans that have not come into existence than do exist.
By far. And so the fact that you exist at all is against stupefying odds of who gets born and who does not. Realizing this, you are you, I am me. We are alive. We get to die. And to get to die means you get to live. Any moment you spend squandering those moments you are alive does disrespect to all those who will never even be born. So every day I wake up, I want to make the world a better place today for my having been in this world than it was yesterday. I want to learn something new, which empowers me to make decisions that are more nuanced, deeper, more informed than I could have made yesterday. And I want to celebrate being alive. Even if you are sick, even if you are terminal, you still got to live when trillions of people would never even be born. So live every one of those moments.
Tell me now, what would be your greatest celebration of being alive? Tell me what your celebration would look like. What's your best day? Like, give me like fireworks of like,
No, here it is.
I'm alive.
No, here it is. You ready? That assumes it's captured in one moment.
Sure.
But in fact, no, but it's the sum of it all. The sum of it all. So here's going to be my happiest moment, and I won't even be alive to see it. But they chisel my tombstone. My sister has written in her notes what I want on my tombstone.
Okay.
It's a quote from the great educator Haramein, and it is, "Be ashamed to die until you have scored some victory for humanity."
You're very inspirational, Neil.
No, the universe is inspirational. I'm just channeling that fact.
Well, it's been something that's been always intriguing to me and overwhelmingly amazing.
I'm honored and flattered that you came to one of my talks.
Thank you. Oh, and I mean, the cosmos was like a mind expansion education on where we came from, the simplicity down to the subatomic level.
All the way down.
And I love it. And I can't wait for Cosmos 3.
3, I got the numbers right.
Thank you so much.
Excellent. Delight to meet you as well.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Very nice to meet you.
Ow, you squeezed.
Oh, gosh, I'm sorry.
I saw pictures you lifting weights. Damn.
That's not going to save our life, though. Swinging to safety from here.
Let's shake that hand again. Now I'll be ready for it. There you go. Okay. Thanks.
Thanks, Neil. Thanks, everybody, for listening to the Pretty Intense podcast today. I hope you enjoyed it. And also, thank you so much, Trevor Hall, for the awesome music. If you like what you heard today and you want to hear more, please click on the subscribe button.